If you're just starting Resident Evil Requiem, I want to give you 6 beginner tips that can make your journey through this game a lot smoother. And don't worry, there are no story spoilers in this video. One of these tips can actually save you a ton of ammo early on, and it's something the game doesn't really explain very well.
Should've worn a helmet.
Tip number 1, don't be afraid to run. This is especially important during Grace's early sections. If you're new to the game, you'll probably notice pretty quickly that ammo is pretty limited while playing as Grace. And if you're playing in first person, the game feels a lot more tense, which makes it really easy to panic and waste shots. But don't feel like you need to stand your ground in every encounter. Even if you aren't running away completely, backing off and repositioning can help you line up a better shot and conserve ammo. Also keep in mind that enemies you defeat can sometimes come back later, and when they do, they may be tougher, quicker, and more aggressive. Tip number 2. This tip cuts deep. If you're playing as Grace and trying to conserve ammo, you'll probably find yourself using the knife quite a good bit early on. Normally, when you swipe with the knife, enemies will sometimes lunge at you and trigger an animation where Grace can plunge the knife into their neck. The problem is that this leaves you without your knife until that enemy is defeated, which can put you in a bad spot if there are multiple enemies around. What I recommend trying instead is this. If you can get the drop on an enemy, do a quick, short sprint right before you swing the knife. When you do this, Grace performs a forward thrust attack with the knife. It gives you a little extra range and momentum, and it often sets you up much better for follow-up slashes without immediately triggering that grab animation. It's a great way to deal damage while conserving ammo in those early sections. Tip number 3. Whether you're playing as Grace or Leon, you can lean around corners. If you walk up close to a wall and use your aim input, your character will perform a wall lean. This lets you peek around corners, take shots while exposing less of yourself, and generally feel a lot more stable. When I'm playing as Grace, I also like to use this to quietly check where enemies are before starting a fight. Tip number 4. Explore thoroughly. This might sound like a basic tip, but exploration really pays off. Even if your inventory is full, when you find an item, simply spotting it will add it to your map. You can come back later for it. This includes items, locked drawers, safes, and even objective doors you haven't opened yet. Exploring also helps you maintain a steady supply of heals, ammo, and crafting materials. And honestly, it helps you learn the layout of the map, so if something starts chasing you, you already know where you want to run. Tip number 5. Check your files. If you ever find yourself stuck, don't forget to check your files. Documents you pick up often contain puzzle clues or hints that can point you in the right direction. When interacting with things like safes, the game actually lets you open your files while you're using the safe, which makes it much easier to check combinations without trying to remember everything. It's definitely easier than the old survival horror days where I had a notebook sitting beside me while playing. And finally, tip number 6. Prepare before leaving the item box and in between combat encounters. Whenever you return to an item box, take a moment to prepare before heading back out. First, try to condense your inventory as much as possible. If an item has a check mark beside of it, that means you've already gotten full use out of it and it doesn't need to stay in your inventory. If you're playing as Leon, make sure to keep your hatchet sharpened. Maintaining sharpness makes a big difference, and you can actually parry much more often than you might think. There's really no reason not to keep it at max sharpness whenever possible. Crafting is also important, especially during Grace's early sections where the inventory space is pretty limited. These early areas really teach you how to manage your space efficiently. I also recommend trying to keep at least one hemolytic injector ready if possible. In some areas, there will be enemies you keep passing while moving through the map, and taking one of them out permanently can make those sections much easier. And finally, reloading your weapons whenever you're out of combat. This is especially important for Leon, since you'll eventually be carrying multiple weapons. Reloading not only prepares you for sudden encounters, it can also free up a little inventory space. If you've recently picked up Resident Evil Requiem, I hope these tips help you out. And if you haven't played it yet, then I'll leave you with one more tip. Pick it up. It's a fantastic game that blends terrifying first-person horror with intense third-person action. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon.